So when a rabbi is speaking in front of other rabbis, the first thing that he says is Bereshut, with the permission. But I look around and I see an American flag over there, an Israeli flag over there. The kippah that I'm wearing has the embodiment of each of those flags and the purposes. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing people that I know have served Beth Torah as representatives of going to Israel and being able to affirm Israel. It's kind of like there's a Beth Torah GPS that we have right here, or those who are watching. So how do we respond to Hatikva? To sing it, to hum it, its inspiring melody, all of the above. But among the main things that hymn contributes is, our hope is not lost. Adlo avda tikvatenu. And those who pay attention to the music, it's actually a full octave jump. Adlo avda tikvatenu. Think of what that jump means. To be able to say that it's not just a song, but it's an affirmation, it's teaching us something. And Hatikva has its own history. It was recorded with different words by the late Jewish singer Al Jolson in 1948. It was the first stanzas of a 9-stanza poem, Tikvatenu, Our Hope, written by Naftali Hertz Imber, admittedly an alcoholic, but inspired 1870 Zionist poet. He expressed that a Jewish heart has embedded in it a Jewish soul that yearns, a Jewish eye that looks forward towards the East and Zion. So let me translate for you what were his original different words. Our hope is not yet lost, that ancient hope to return to the land of our ancestors, to the city in which David settled. It's not talking about some of the things that we have our memorized words. The official lyrics, as we know, to be a free people in our land, the land of Zion. That was officially proclaimed 2004 as the national anthem of Israel. What was the competition? Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. There were that many people that said maybe that should be the anthem instead. But let's talk about that a little bit. Either way, the Hatikva makes no reference to military. Think of the anthems around the world. Bombs bursting in air, right? Defeating the enemy, fighting with our blood. The anthems of the United States, Sudan, Egypt, Ireland, and France. Instead, it talks about our hope. And it reminded us there was a covenant with Abraham and our ancestors. And there's a yearning to go back and to embrace the places that our ancestors had walked. And you know what? In 1945, somehow, that song was sung by the survivors of Bergen-Belsen. So what is that hope? What do we hold on to, and how are we part of it? That a generation to generation, international, and as we learned, even interfaith, that stands for God's loving partnership. As I learned the hope, it was held by Jews and many Christians as well. So I and my wife, Annette, are thankful that we could go to Israel, that we could see ourselves as part of a support of Israel and the Israel Defense Forces, Tzahal, Tzava Haganah Yisrael, the IDF, to come back to you with our hearts having experienced and our eyes having seen and envisioned. We're grateful that our rabbis invited us to share with you both tonight and the first Shabbat morning of August about our trip to Israel, unlike any other times that we've been there in the past. We wore Israeli IDF military uniforms. We experienced the love of Israel from so many Jewish and non-Jewish men and women. Just as our members, Edgardo and Sandra Aymar, had spoken to the synagogue of their voluntarism, and similarly, we here to talk about our assignment. From them and Gabi Raskovsky, we had so much encouragement. They even offered to step in when our acceptances seemed to be delayed. So with thanks to the trust of the coordinators of Sarel. Let's explain exactly what it is. It's a nickname. It's abbreviation. Sarel is saying service to the people of Israel. So we stand before you. A bit of background. 1982, Israel, as we remember, had its own struggle at the north. And at the Lebanese border, the response by so many people who were farmers was to go to the military. That left the farms untended. So therefore, a very wise and dedicated commander of paratroop and infantry, Aharon Davidi, came up with the idea, could he have people from America come to take care of the farms? Had no idea how many people would respond. 650 people came between 1982 and 1983 to take care of farms so the people on Miluim, on reserves, could continue to represent Israel's own defense. So now Sarel, again, we means for us, service to the people of Israel, has grown to up to 240,000 volunteers since 1983. So visualize how many different impulses that people in a room, as they're asked, why are you here, when we assembled, as I'm sure the Aymar family had the same experience, and hearing the Christian thoughts. I've loved Israel for years, for decades, and I wanted to be up close, and I listened to our pastors reminding us about the covenant with Abraham and with the Jewish people, and I had to be here. It was really a privilege to work alongside them. And I got to tell you, it was some long, hard work days. But you know what? It was the harm and threats to Israel since October 7th that invited many of us, some here and those who served with us, and some who are actually returning this week and next week to keep doing what we did. So you've signed petitions because you asked, what more can I do for Israel? You've appeared in rallies. We alongside you. We've written checks, all of us. Our answer was, let's go and let's serve. So we all asked, how do we help Israel if I live elsewhere? And so obviously the equation made a possibility for someone to say, I'll fly over. I'll have someone direct me. How do I give to Israel that's been mercilessly attacked, wounded physically and emotionally, misunderstood, assaulted by a world, blind to a reality where terrorists and terrorism are reconciled by inaccurate grasps of history? So 37 of us in different conditions physically, in a range of ages, determined to do something, not just for Israel, but support for the Israeli soldiers and work alongside them. To bring pride internationally from an interfaith community for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, choice was up to us. We brought an energy supply of love of Israel, love and caring for the people of Israel. So an underlying theme of the Sarel program became a partner to save lives, our mission to provide essential aid in times of need. So my work week differed from Annette. I was sifting medical equipment back from areas of battle to repurpose and refilter the good reusable packages of bandages, compression kits, IVs, transfusion solutions, respirators, even tourniquets. By the thousands, the destination, as you can imagine, was Gaza. So 6 of us with our supervisor, Priel, who would come from the Ukraine, brought the dedication that is referred to in tomorrow's Torah reading. God tells a wicked sorcerer, Bilam, do not curse this people, for they are blessed. That's what we are. They are blessed. We are blessed, since we as volunteers. That's why we were there with this people of Israel that's blessed. And all we could add was our blessings, our strength, our encouragement and readiness to serve, and to embody hatikva, there and here. Od lo avda tikvatenu. Our hope is not lost, to testify that yours and ours, that hope of thousands of years, is not lost. We're ready to help any of you here or online who wish to do service to the peoplehood of Israel through Sarel, sacred service to the people of Israel, and to the IDF, Am Yisrael Chai. Now I get to listen to Annette.
First, I want to thank Rabbi and the Chazan for giving us this opportunity. I haven't tag team talked with Rabbi Jeff for a few years since adult education class, so it's fun. Before I go into what I did in Sarel, I just want to share a few impressions. Upon entering the country, the fella who stamped your passport and said, okay, you can go in, said, welcome home. We've led tours, many tours. I don't recall anyone saying, welcome home then. So that already started it different. We stayed a few days earlier in Neve Tzedek, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, to see Tel Aviv, because we normally didn't have a chance to do that on our own. And we went to the Tel Aviv Museum of Art, in which, if you've never gone, it's a good museum. But what's more important is outside of it is Hostage Square. Hostage Square struck me because after we left the fella saying, welcome home, we walked to baggage claim. And along every pew was another picture of a hostage saying, rescue them, all the way down till we got to baggage claim. So that was the beginning. In Hostage Square, outside, they had the yellow, I call them doohickeys, I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they had them as sculptures about 5-6 feet tall, and they had a table for 137 people set, straight line all the way down, empty chairs, empty yellow chairs for the hostages. And that was how we started our trip. Sarel was exhausting and exhilarating at the same time. As Jeff mentioned, there are about 37 volunteers in our group. When we got to Ben Gurion, there were about 150, and then they split us all up to go different places. But what was one thing that I really say over and over again, they told us that from the beginning of Sarel, nowadays they normally get 4,000 to 5,000 volunteers a year. Since October 7th, they have gotten 47,000 volunteers from all over the world. Sarel is really for people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and I don't think Annie would have enjoyed being with us. But what was really interesting, while we were among the oldest, there were still two more. There was one fellow who was 81, and one fellow who was a retired pharmacist that I worked with, who was 84. And we said, how could you get in? Because the cutoff is supposed to be 80. He said, I've been here before, and I just kept resending my application till they got tired of it, and they said yes. And so that's where he was. But what you need to know is our supervisors were age 19, 21, 23. Our 19-year-old Arena had come from Ukraine 3 months ago and joined the army. They and the rest of the army are a comparable age. Work details, how do I say it? We all did, as he said, different components of assembling emergency medical kits to replenish and ship back on trucks to the front and anywhere else are needed in the country. When we left, 24 trucks went out with 5,000 kits on them. I started in air conditioning with 3 women doing assembly line, putting things in, sponges, scissors, surgical items, etc. Then, and I had always heard this, and it's true, never volunteer in the Army. They asked for a volunteer to help in another area because one person needed to switch. So I said yes. Little did I know we would be working outside in the heat under a lanai, which was near where the boxes were, but it was too small a warehouse space for us to be working indoors. So that was no AC, but at least no sun. We were blocked from the sun. What we did, we checked and counted pain medications to send to the troops. We checked lot numbers and the count of how many vials there were. Not so much the expiration date, which I was surprised, but we're talking fentanyl, morphine, Demerol, Valium. We checked close to 5,000 ampules, the 3 of us. I worked with 2 men, one of whom was the 84-year-old in the heat, and a 75-year-old who is a mental health professional. By the last 2 days, I was able to get them to at least bring us a floor fan so the air would circulate while we were working, because you're talking about from 8 to 12 and then 1 to 3:34 every day. So that day they brought 2, but it made a difference. For me and all others, knowing what we were doing with packing and sorting these medical kits, going to young soldiers, a bit older than our own grandchildren, in war zones, that was emotional. Each morning, also, we mustered to do a flag raising in uniform. Now, Jeff looked good in his uniform. Me, you don't want to see. Then we sang Hatikva, also emotional by the end of the week because we knew what this was all about. I'm so glad I was able to do this. For me, it kind of continued a family active connection. I had a great uncle in Brooklyn before 1947 who would smuggle guns from Brooklyn in his shipments to a textile factory he established in Kfar Saba to Ben Gurion and the newly formed Haganah. So I kind of felt like I was participating in that family feeling. And now today, the drone attack in Tel Aviv hit around the corner of the Maxim Hotel, where many of us stayed before starting Sarel. We ourselves did not, because we stayed at a hotel walking distance to the Mosarti synagogue in Tel Aviv. But the Maxim Hotel was closer to the Mediterranean, and it was about 3 miles from ours. This brings home even more the importance of volunteering. So thank you, and I do have Sarel cards. If any is interested in looking at them and seeing them, and I don't think they'll accept a 90-year-old, but they accepted me, and I was really not sure they would. So that was it. Thank you for letting us talk, and Shabbat Shalom.